Control players denied.
Hey Control Nation, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dr. Red. In this video, we will be going over all of the control style cards in Surging Sparks. So, let's get started. Right here we have ABD, that's Ability, Board, and Damage Control. First we have Dhelmise. It has the Annihilating Anchor attack. Before doing damage, discard all Pokemon tools from your opponent's active Pokemon. That might be good in the Grass Box deck. Skeledirge has the ability Unaware, prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon. You could pair that with Skeledirge EX for some heal control. Chien-Pao, it's basically a functional reprint of the old Pumpkaboo that was popular when Lugia V-Star was around, when it first came out, I mean. The ability Snow Stink, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may discard a stadium and play it. That might be good for combating Terapagos. Milotic EX, this is an archetype all itself. Sparkling Scales ability, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks from your opponent's Terra Pokemon down this Pokemon. It is a wall stall card. Paldean Tauros, Upthrusting Horns. You may put 2 energy attached to your opponent's active Stage 2 Pokemon into their hand. This would be good for disrupting Charizard after it's already been charged up, or if you face a pesky Gengar EX on the ladder, something like that. That would be perfect for this. It's also a great addition to Ditto control. Walrein, Frigid Fangs. During your opponent's next turn, any Pokemon, not just the defending Pokemon, that have 2 or less energy attached can't attack. That's absolutely insane. All of the Terra Pokemon using Sparkling Crystal are going to have to really charge up. So Walrein can definitely be its own archetype, maybe with a little bit of help on the side from something like Whiscash for some mill action, but definitely Walrein can be its own card. Miraidon, CODE, Code Protect. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to each of your future Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon EX. If this Pokemon is no longer your active Pokemon, this effect ends. That'd be for future blocks, especially Iron Hands EX. Preventing bench damage. Flittle, Splashing Dodge, flip a coin of heads. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. You might consider this for your Espathra EX builds. There's also Baby Espathra with Mystical Eyes. Devolve one of your opponent's evolved Pokemon by putting the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. So it's not as effective as Devolution, but it is what it is. Donphan has Guarded Rolling. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 100 less damage from attacks. Gastrodon. This is an interesting one. The ability Sticky Bind. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, benched Stage 2 Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, have no abilities. So Pidgeot EX, Charizard EX, Gardevoir EX, they cannot use their abilities. The danger with this card, though, is that certain types of control decks, like Pidgeot or Snorlax, they just don't care because they can just boss you up into the active if they're using any Stage 2s other than Pidgeot. Even if, Pidgeot's there, they can see it coming with Shell Loss. So get a boss, get a counter catcher, and it's no problem. Archaludon EX, Metal Defender. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon has no weakness. So Gouging Fire EX, Radiant Charizard are not going to touch this thing for weakness. Not going to do any one-hit KOing. Altaria, Cotton Wings, flip a coin of heads. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks. Appletun, Melting Sweetness. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't attack. I doubt Regidrago is going to want this even for fun. Eternatus, World Ender. What a name. Discard a stadium in play. If you can't, this attack does nothing. That'd be good for combating, again, something that has a lot of bench like Terapagos. Kecleon, Expert Hider ability. If any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin of heads, prevent that damage. A little bit of a troll card there. Oranguru, interesting attack and effect. Now you're in my power. Until the end of your next turn, the defending Pokemon's weakness is now colorless. So imagine Pidgeot EX coming into the active to get a cheeky little KO to end the game. Megaton Blower. This is the anti-Lugia V-Star card. Discard all Pokemon tools and special energy from all of your opponent's Pokemon and discard a stadium in play, even if it's your own. Gravity Mountain. Each Stage 2 Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, gets minus 30 HP. This is fantastic for Serena EX, where it puts 30 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon until there's 30 damage left. So damage all of those Pokemon, all those Stage 2 Pokemon like Charizard, put this in and get instant KOs. And we're back to the beginning. Next, we have damage counter cards. To start us off, we have Bruxish with counter attack ability. If this Pokemon is in the active and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, put 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. Cofagrigus, this is a fun one. Law of the Underworld. Put 6 damage counters on each Pokemon that has an ability, both yours and your opponent's. This might be worth experimenting with the new Uxie card that has the spread damage attack, but we'll have to see. You might try putting it in Frostlass and just attacking near the end so you don't KO yourself as well. Flutter Mane, this card's made for Roaring Moon EX. Perplexing Transfer. Move all damage counters from one of your benched ancient Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. There's the Uxie I mentioned, Painful Memories, put 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. It is its own archetype, and it is going through the ladder right now. Bouffalant, Ready to Ram. During your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, put 6 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. We're back to the beginning. Next, we have all of the draw cards, both Pokemon and trainers. This is Rabsca, Triple Draw. Draw 3 cards. Quaquaval has the ability Up Tempo. You must put a card from your hand on the bottom of your turn in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw cards until you have 5 in your hand. Sigilyph, Double Draw. Draw 2 cards. Klefki, Stick and Draw. Discard a card from your hand if you do, draw 2. Cyclizar EX, Interesting Terramon. Zircon Road does a 180 base damage for a Fire, Psychic, and Grass energy. You may draw 5 cards. Not up until 5 cards, just outright draw 5. Then we have Surfer. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. Then we have Time. This is Rhyme's mother, if I'm not mistaken. Check this out. Tell your opponent the name of a Pokemon in your hand and put that Pokemon face down in front of you. Your opponent guesses that Pokemon's HP, and then you reveal it. If your opponent guessed right, they draw 4 cards. If they guessed wrong, you draw 4 cards. Then return the Pokemon to your hand. Interesting. Enriching Energy SPEC. Provides a single colorless energy. When you attach this card from your hand to a Pokemon, draw 4 cards. This is good for a stall type of deck that wants to constantly use Penny and just get a little bit of extra draw each turn if it's not being KO'd and say Phesandipity's not on the bench anyway. And we're back to the beginning. This is Energy Acceleration cards. We have Oricorio, Energy Assist. Attach up the 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. That's for a fire energy. The Psychic Oricorio says the same thing, except it's for a psychic energy. Kilowattrel, Stormbolt. Move all energy from this Pokemon to your bench Pokemon any way you like. Kilowattrel EX. This was a promo card, if I'm not mistaken, that they just snuck in here. Switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. If you do, attach up the 2 basic lightning energy cards from your hand to this Pokemon. Magneton. This card was made for Pikachu EX. Overvolt Discharge ability. Once during your turn, you may attach up to 3 basic energy cards of any type from your discard pile to your lightning Pokemon only in any way you like. If you use this ability, this Pokemon is KO'd. It is worth it for Pikachu decks. I'm not sure about anything else. I'm sure there's a way to use it, but definitely for Pikachu. There's Cofagrigus again. There's Mesprit. Wait, why did I put Cofagrigus in there? Oh, that's a mistake. Mesprit. Attach up to 2 basic psychic energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon any way you like. Smoochum, it's a free attack and has free retreat as it's a baby Pokemon. Delightful Kiss. Search your deck for up to 2 basic psychic energy cards and attach them to one of your bench Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Archaludon EX has the ability Assemble Alloy. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may attach up to 2 metal energy cards, basic cards, from your discard pile to your metal Pokemon any way you like, not just Archaludon EX. So imagine using Radiant Greninja, putting 2 in the discard pile, evolve, get 2 on here, attach for turn, and already you're using Metal Defender for 220. Alolan Exeggutor EX. Tropical Frenzy. For 150 base damage and a Grass and Water energy, you may attach any number of basic energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon any way you like. So imagine pairing this with Energy Search Pro A-Spec, just getting 5 energy cards, and then just going to town with whatever is on your bench. Altaria, Humming Charge. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards, attach them to your Pokemon any way you like, shuffle your deck. Terrapagos, Prism Charge. Search your deck for up to 3 basic energy cards of different types and attach them to your Terra Pokemon any way you like. This might be useful if you're using something like the Ogre Pawn build that they gave us, or something with Terramons that are basic, and your turn 2 going second. Otherwise, with stage 1s and 2s, this might be a little too slow because of how fast the game is moving right now. We're back to the beginning. This is Energy Manipulation. Sorry about that. We have Baby Cerule Edge, Cursed Edge. Discard all special energy from all of your opponent's Pokemon. That's interesting. Paldean Tauros, we already went over. Stunfisk, Paralyzing Crackle. Flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. Discard an energy from that Pokemon. This would be good in maybe like a Lightning Box deck or a Luxray EX deck as a backup supporter. You might consider attaching Counter Gain to this card so that you don't have to be concerned about attaching a second energy to it. You can save it for Luxray. Glamora, Corrosive Shards. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. During your opponent's next turn, energy cards cannot be attached from your opponent's hand to that Pokemon. So if they switch out the defending Pokemon, they could do it, but if they have a Dragapult that's uncharged for some reason, they can't attach to it. That's pretty awesome. Primeape, Sweep the Leg, flip a coin of heads, discard energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Grafaiai, this is really, really fun. Mischievous Painting for a single colorless energy. Attach up to 3 energy cards from your opponent's discard pile to their Pokemon in any way you like. This is energy manipulation, ladies and gentlemen, because your opponent cannot use Super Rod or anything to get their cards back into their deck meaningfully. So imagine facing Chien-Pao, you play Mischievous Painting, and their energy goes on their useless Beaverell. I also have paired this with Baby Milotic, so your opponents can't use Professor Tauros Scenario, Scoop Up Cyclone, or Penny. So you're basically energy locking them in a much different way. And it can be its own archetype, but it's going to need a lot of help as well. Turtonator, Fully Singed. Discard an energy from your opponent's active EX. With how popular EXs are, that's not a bad card. Chill Teaser Toy. You can use this card only if you go second only during your first turn. Put an energy attachment of your opponent's Pokemon into their hand. This is also paired with the new Stage 1 Meowstic. It has an ability where if you discard this card, you can gust your opponent's bench Pokemon. Back to Megaton Blower. Scramble Switch. This is a reprint. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, you may move any amount of energy from the Pokemon you move to your bench to the new active Pokemon. Counter game we just mentioned. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, attacks used by the Pokemon this card is attached to cost 1 colorless less. That's great for single colorless energy attacks in control decks. Think like Radiant Eevee for getting cards into your hand. And back to the beginning again. These are gusting cards. We just mentioned Meowstic with Beckoning Tail. Discard Chill Teaser Toy, so you can switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active. Braviary, Drag Off, switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. This attack does 40 damage to the new active Pokemon. Lycia's Appeal, switch in one of your opponent's benched basic Pokemon to the active spot. If you do, the new active Pokemon is now confused. Imagine pairing this with Psyduck with the Overthink attack, wherein if your opponent uses a coin flip of any kind, it's automatically treated as Tails. We're back to the beginning. Next we have Hand and Deck Manipulation card. This new Baby Rotom is really fun. Crushing Pulse for a single lightning energy. Your opponent reveals their hand, discard all item cards and Pokemon tool cards you find there. Highly recommend you have something with a free retreat like a Pidgeot or a Cleffa, then slap this baby down, get the energy on it, and just manipulate their whole big hand. It's really fun to use. I recommend using it in like a Luxray build or a custom kind of Pidgeot EX control deck. Esper has See-Through. Your opponent reveals their hand. Deduction Kit. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in any order, or shuffle them, put them on the bottom of your deck. This is great for something like a Slow King deck that requires you to use the Inspiration attack to look at the top part of your deck to make sure it's the Pokemon, otherwise the attack fails. You can also use this with Greedent EX, where you have to look at the top 3 cards and draw or discard them. Meddling Memo. Your opponent counts the cards in their hand, shuffles those cards, puts them on the bottom of their deck. If they do, they draw that many cards. If you compare this with something like Grabber or the Esper and just keep track of what your opponent plays, this would be a great manipulation card. So if your opponent has a really great hand, you just Meddling Memo, get rid of it, and if they don't, just leave it alone. We're back to the beginning. Next, these are healing cards. You have Indeedee, Obliging Heal ability. You play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn. You may heal 30 damage from your active Pokemon and have it recover from a special condition. There's also a Baby Blissey that can do something similar from the bench, but you don't need to have it be. It's not when you evolve it; it's just anytime you want. Appletun has Nutrients, heal 30 damage from one of your Pokemon. Dragon Elixir, heal 60 damage from your active Dragon Pokemon. Maybe this is useful with Noivern, maybe Regidrago, but it just seems like it would take up some space and doesn't need to. Clement's Quick Wit heals 60 damage from each of your Lightning Pokemon. I guess a Pikachu that's taking hits from like smaller Pokemon. Otherwise, not sure. Technical Machine Fluorite. Discard all energy from this Pokemon and heal all damage from each of your Terramon. Not sure what that would be good with offhand. Seems like a bit of a throwaway card. And we're back to Indeedee. These are mill cards. Durant. This is being paired with Blox Snorlax, but I've also seen it paired with Great Tusk. The ability Sudden Shearing. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you can discard the top part of your opponent's deck. So you put 1, 2, 3, 4 down, then you Scoop Up Cyclone or Penny and just replay them, and then just get Tile Pad to recycle the pennies, etc. Flittle, add-on, draws a card. Drillbur, discard the top card. I'm sorry, that's a draw card. Never mind. Drillbur, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Excadrill, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Dino, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Xylus, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. And the big one, Hydreigon EX. Crashing Headbutt, 200 base damage. Discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Very fun card. Should be meta. It's meta in Japan right now. We'll see how it pairs out here in the West. Snorlax, that's another draw card. Sorry about that. All right, and we're back to the beginning. And we have retreat locking cards. There's just 3 of them. Bruxish has Big Bite, does 50 base damage. Magnezone has Mighty Magnetism. Your opponent's Pokemon is confused. During your opponent's next turn, that Pokemon can't retreat. This could be its own archetype. You might pair it with Magnezone V-Star to mix things up a bit. You'd probably want to wait and use it as a backup attacker with Reversal Energy. Palisand EX has Sandtomb for 3 colorless energy, does 160 base damage. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. There's a similar card with 4 colorless energy, 150 damage. It's Orthworm EX. It was nothing to write home about, but this Palisand at least has a backup attack in Barite Jail. Putting damage counters each your opponent's bench Pokemon until its remaining HP is 100. So there's that. It has that going for it. Then we also have, this is free search, free attack, and free retreat cards. Cast Form Sunny Form has a free retreat in case you have a Fire deck you want to get something in there. With there. Latias EX is in all the big basic decks, including Pikachu and Iron Hands EX. Skyliner, your basic Pokemon in play have no retreat cost. Smoochum, we went over this, has Delightful Kiss. Lowland Diglett has a free attack. Surprise attack. Flip a coin. If tails, his attack does nothing. Its evolution. Lowland Dugtrio. Look at those hairstyles. Trio Chi-Hu. Interesting name. If you don't have exactly 3 cards in your hand, this attack does nothing. Okay. Then Dialga has Time Manipulation. Search your deck for 2 cards. Shuffle your deck to put those cards on top of it in any order. If your opponent Ionos you, you're guaranteed to get 2 cards you want. If you have Kirlia, Liepard, or Radiant Greninja in your hand, you can get those 2 cards. In total on your next turn. Amulet of Hope. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, search your deck for up to 3 cards, put them into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Imagine putting this on Radiant Jirachi with its ability that lets you get any 3 cards you want if it's KO'd, so 6 cards. Just a thought. And then we're back to the beginning. This is our special condition. These are our special condition cards. Milotic has the ability Calming Light. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon's in the active, you may make your opponent's active Pokemon asleep. This is made to be paired with Jinx EX. It has the Heart-Stopping Kiss attack for 2 colorless and 1 water energy. If your opponent's Pokemon is asleep, the Pokemon is knocked out. You just need to find a way to get Milotic out. That shouldn't be hard with all the switch cards going around. Cast Form Sunny Form has Singe. Your opponent's active Pokemon is burned. Fuecoco, Heat Burn, burns your opponent. Black Kyurem EX. This is interesting. Ice Age. For 3 colorless energy, it does 90 base damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a dragon, it is now paralyzed. What's in the format right now? Noivern EX, Giratina V-Star, Regidrago V-Star. These are the big dragon types. Black Kyurem is being used off and on in Pidgeot EX Control, and that's pretty much what it's good for right now, but it has 3 colors, so you can probably sparse it in anywhere if you're afraid of a dragon type. Cryogonal has Ice Beam. Flip a coin if heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed. Milotic EX has the Hypno Splash attack for 160 base damage, 2 colors, 1 water. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. Spheal puts your opponent's Pokemon asleep. Magnezone's Mighty Magnetism attack confuses your opponent. Stunfisk, we went over, it paralyzes your opponent on a coin flip. Or Aquario has Dazzle Dance, your opponent's active is now confused. Sigilyph, Cybolt, flip a coin if heads, your opponent's active is now paralyzed. Tapu Lele, your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. Lamora, Corrosive Charge, your opponent's active is now poisoned. Soblu, your opponent's active is now confused. This year's Appeal, we went over, it's confusion. Milotic is back at the beginning again. Okay, and we have tanks here. And then one more category. Satitan, Solid Body. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. Flutter Mane has Moonblast. During your opponent's next turn, attacks used by this defending Pokemon do 30 less damage. Sylveon EX has Magical Charm. During your opponent's next turn, attacks used by the defending Pokemon do 100 less damage. So it basically has 370 HP effectively. Slap a Hero Skip on it, it has 470. Skarmory, Steel Wing. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. Lively Stadium. Boost your basics by giving every basic in play plus 30 HP. Jasmine's Gaze. During your opponent's next turn, all of your Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon. Babiri Berry. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged by an attack from your opponent's metal Pokemon, it takes 60 less damage. So if you're afraid of Archaludon, this is the card for you. Colbur Berry, same thing, 60 less damage from Darkness Pokemon. So if you're afraid of Charizard, this is the card for you. Pasho Berry, same thing, except it's water Pokemon, it takes 60 less damage. And we're back to the beginning. And this is everything else, ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't fit any of these categories just yet. For example, Pikachu EX has Resolute Heart ability. It's a prize denial card. If this Pokemon is full HP and will be knocked out by damage from an attack, it's not knocked out. Remaining HP becomes 10. You can use this in a stall deck like myself, or use it as an aggro control deck with the Megaton we mentioned earlier. Dedenne has Electromagnetic Sonar. Put a trainer card from your discard pile into your hand, hence it is trainer retrieval. Sylveon EX has Angelite. Choose 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Shuffle these Pokemon and all attached cards into your opponent's deck. If one of your Pokemon used Angelite during your last turn, this attack can't be used. So imagine your opponent has 2 Pidgey out, or even 2 Pidgeot. They've used their rare candies. Not sure why they have 2 Pidgeot, but you get the idea. 2 stage 2s. Just shuffle them back in the deck. Rare candies go to waste. Annihilate has Destined Fight. Both active Pokemon are KO'd. Imagine putting this baby in. You have a really pesky Dragapult and just get rid of it right on the board. Alolan Exeggutor EX, Swinging Sphene. Flip a coin. If heads, knock out your opponent's active basic Pokemon. If tails, knock out one of your opponent's benched basic Pokemon. Miracle Headset, a SPEC. Put up to 2 supporter cards from your discard pile into your hand. So if you can't get Silene back in because you're out of pile pads, this is where it comes in. We're back to the beginning. I think the damage counter card I meant to put in here was Palossand. Yeah, that's okay though. It's all good. So thank you for watching, everybody. These are all your basic control cards in this set. Have fun building, and may God bless you and hold you in the palm of his hand.